Welcome to Career in Progress, a podcast about building the skills that build your career. Today, I'm thrilled to bring to you an insightful conversation with a seasoned executive leader and coach with over 30 years of experience, my amazing guest, Jacqueline Brown. Together, we explore the essential skills that power self leadership, amplify your visibility and brand, and help you own your voice in rooms, especially where you may feel overlooked. So, whether you're aspiring to become a CEO, or rebooting your career after a break, or simply looking to grow, this episode is for you. With no further ado, I introduce Jacqueline Brown. Jacqueline Brown is co founder of Brown Developments Inc. and the inspiring force behind Be the CEO of You. After a distinguished 30-year career in corporate leadership, Jacqueline decided to channel her expertise into empowering others by designing leadership development programs that guide good leaders towards greatness, helping them lead with expanded vision, clear purpose, and tangible impact. Through her executive coaching and her recent book, Be the CEO of You, Leading You with Vision, Purpose, and Impact, Jacqueline shares a blend of strategic thinking, compelling narratives, and heartfelt insights to help leaders truly own their inner power and potential. Let's dive into an insightful conversation together. Jacqueline, welcome to Career in Progress. We've shared so many insightful, energizing conversations over lunch and across our desks, and I am so excited to bring this conversation to our listeners and learn from you once more today.
Oh, Purnamar, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here. And I have to say congratulations because I am very excited about you launching this podcast. I remember us having lunch and you talked about doing it and now you're doing it. So I'm excited for you and this journey that you're embarking on. But yes, the conversations that we have had over only 2 years that we've known each other. It hasn't really been that long, but it feels like we've known each other for 20 years because
Agreed.
We have learned so much about each other and shared so much with each other that it's always a pleasure when we get a chance to sit down and have a conversation together. So thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
It's my pleasure. And really, it's been only 2 years. It's
I did.
Feels a whole lot longer. A huge congratulations to you on reaching an incredible career milestone, launching your book, Be the CEO of You, which, I bought my copy right here. And
Thank you.
I am so proud of this book. So for everybody listening, I have my highlighter here. I've been taking copious notes on, the incredible wealth of knowledge and stories right there. And the link to the book and where it's available is going to be in the description. So everybody, please, to all the listeners, do not miss the link in the description and get your copy today for reading this amazing book. So
Thank you.
Congratulations to you, Jacqueline.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been so exciting, the overwhelming positive feedback that I've gotten on the book. And, writing a book, you don't know exactly, and even what is going to go into it. It took me about 2 years to decide to do the book. And then it took me probably another year to actually get it done.
Totally can imagine. I know you and I have had lots of conversations on, the ideas you've had. So I'm excited to dive in. Jacqueline, what does, being the CEO of you mean? What does that really mean? And why do you believe it's essential for everyone, regardless of their role and stage in life?
Yes. Well, to me, be the CEO of you was really about taking ownership of my decisions, taking ownership of my life and my career in a way that aligned with my values It aligned with what my passions are. It aligned with what it is that I saw myself doing and achieving in my life. And the book and this experience came about during a career transition that I was not necessarily prepared for. And so it was during this time when I thought I was on this career trajectory, and it sort of like the rug got pulled out from under me a bit, and I was ill prepared for what it was I wanted to do next. And so it just kind of left me spinning for a bit of time. And even after I got into another position and I thought I was healed or over it, I wasn't. And so that situation left scars, and it was more traumatic than I thought it was for me. But what it did is it helped me to really it helped me to step back and evaluate what it was that was really important to me. And what I discovered during that time is that I leaned very heavily on external validation.
Oh, yeah.
And it was because of that this situation was so traumatic for me. And so I started journaling and meditating, and then I started writing, which was something that I had loved to do for years and years and years. I'd gotten away from it, and so I started writing. And as I was writing, I thought, wow, this could be helpful for other people. But in the words that I was writing and capturing in my journaling, I started to see patterns of things that I was doing. And those things were basically giving my power to other things outside of me. And I thought, it's time for me to take that power back. And so I really, really started to delve inside of and delve in inner to figure out what it was that I wanted, and how that would actually showcase itself in how I show up differently than how I had shown up in the past. And so there's these two selves. There's your inner self, going deep within and understanding really what's important to you. What are your values? What are you about internally? And then there's the outer self. How does that manifest itself in your behaviors? And so bringing the two of those together, I came up with this thought of you and self Inc. You is your inner self, self is your outer, Inc. You incorporate the two.
I love that.
And so when I came up with that, it sounded like a company.
Yeah.
And so when I was talking to my husband about the concept, and he said, well, if you are the company, you are the asset, then you need to be the chief of the asset. You need to be the CEO of the asset. And that is how Be the CEO of You came about. You and Self Inc. is your company, and you are the CEO of that company.
I love that. You are the company and you are the CEO of the company. That's hugely powerful. First of all, thank you for being so honest about your journey and sharing that with us. And I think your struggle that you said, the self-validation, right? I can so relate to it, and I'm sure many others can. What are one or two skills that you would recommend somebody who's working on this to build? How do people get over self-validation and build that alignment with the inner self and outer self?
Well, I think the first one is self-awareness. The book is really heavily focused on self-leadership as a component of really understanding you and self. Self-awareness. It's really, it is fundamental to understand what it is that wakes you up in the morning, what inspires you, how do you inspire you, how do you motivate you, how do you hold yourself accountable to what it is that you say you want to do and accomplish. And so that self-awareness is a critical skill that we all should not only master, but be able to share that with other people. And the way that you really delve into self-awareness is through just sitting with yourself. Meditation, journaling, being still, right? Those are the ways that you really think about self-awareness. And I'll give you a little exercise that I actually just started this last week. I started this week as another way of really understanding me and myself through self-awareness. So each morning when I wake up, before I get out of bed, I have my notebook and a pen next to my bed table. I pull it out and I open it up and I write out my thoughts. And the first thing I notice is that when I wake up, there's a song playing in my head. Every morning when I wake up, there's a song playing in my head. And it's been happening for years. And I just never really thought that it was that important. During this exercise of self-awareness, I decided to write down the song that's playing in my head when I wake up.
Wow.
And then I wake up, what are my thoughts? What am I wake up thinking about? Is it going to be hot outside today? Is it I'm doing this podcast with Purnima today and I'm excited about that? Whatever the thoughts are, what are your thoughts? And then what are your intentions for today? What's the one or two things that you want to accomplish for this day? And I write down the day, the time of the morning that I start, and the date. And I've been doing that for the last week. At the end of a week or two, the goal is to go back and read through what you have written down and see what kind of things come up for you. Are there some patterns that you're seeing? Does one of the songs repeat itself? Are there themes with the songs? I mean, there's so much that you can glean from this type of exercise, but it is a way for you to focus in on your awareness of you, how you were feeling about something, whether that was a good feeling or a bad feeling. It's just you having time with you, and it's a dedicated space, and it takes about 10 or 15 minutes. It also depends on what kinds of thoughts you're having, what things you're going through. But ideally, you get to really, really know yourself just by writing down things that you're thinking about.
I'm hearing so many themes in there. You know, increasing self-awareness is the key. Journaling, which a lot of us are aware but don't take the time to do. So the power of that. Sitting still with oneself. That's such a tough one because, often that's the most eerie feeling, which is like, oh my God, I'm not doing something. I'm just sitting. But how critical is that? And I love creating your own playlist, having that thought and journaling it right there in the morning when your day is starting and collecting your own data, to become more self-aware. I love the practical tips right there. And also, you summarized it really well by saying it's not just your writing, but reflect on it at the end of the week to find insights about your own self and your patterns of what energizes you. And even if something doesn't energize you, equally create that awareness and accept and work through that. I love the practical tips right there. Another aspect that you talk a lot about in the book, and you also talked about recently in one of your amazing LinkedIn articles, was the art of self-promotion as a part of self-leadership, right? And I will say, many of us, I'll be very honest to say, I have struggled with it. It's not a skill that's come easily to me. And a lot of it, comes even from our upbringing where, you're told to be humble, and self-promotion is not something you do. It comes to you when you deserve it, right? And women in particular struggle with this. And you have some beautiful insights in your book and in your article. I would love to hear from you. What are some of the tangible skills that one can build to bring in more visibility to themselves and their work? And how can one be, that self-leader who has a strong self-promotion in the right way?
Yeah. Self-promotion is also something that I have struggled with as well. And you and I have had conversations about that. And it's the idea of really knowing your value and what it is that you bring to the table. And it starts with confidence. It starts with confidence. And here's the thing, that the theme of what you will see throughout my book and the talks, it always starts with self. self leadership, self confidence, self promotion. It starts with self. That's why the you is so important. But we have to get comfortable with stepping into the people that we are, the women that we are, and really being okay with here's what I bring to the table, and it's valuable to someone, to many people. It's valuable. But most importantly, it's valuable to me. I understand what it is that I bring to the table because I've worked really hard at developing my skills, at becoming this person that I am, and I'm continuing to work on it. And so why not showcase that to other people in a way that it doesn't feel like you're conceited or you're bragging or anything like that. Self-promotion it's not about that. It's being comfortable with knowing your value and your worth and being okay saying, this is what I bring to the table. And there's a high level of confidence in being able to do that. And so, and it's not something that comes comfortably for a lot of people, and especially a lot of women. So you have to really practice it, and you have to step out of your comfort zone also. Sometimes, to make yourself visible, right? Visibility is incredibly important. It has been said that, the squeaky wheel gets heard, right? Well, if you're sitting in the background and you've got something to say and you don't talk and you don't speak up, no one's going to hear you. No one's even going to know that you're there. I had this thing that I did. I shared this with you one time. I was in a conference room with a group with my team, and there were developers and QA engineers, and I noticed that all of my team members sat in the back of the conference room. And it was really important during the time when I had taken over this team for this team to be recognized as having value in this trio of work that we were doing. And I thought to myself, as I watched them all sit in the back of the room, how can we ask for our voices to be heard if we're not going to present ourselves as voices that need to be heard? And so I said, let's all move to the front of the room. So I took the lead, and I sat in the very first chair in the front of the room, and I invited them to do the same. It changed the dynamic of the conversation when we started talking about the work that not only my team was doing, but how that was valuable and important to the rest of the project. And so that's how visibility works. You cannot always sit or stand in the background and expect to be seen. You have to sometimes step up to in the front of the conference room, take the very first seat in the classroom, take the very first seat in the auditorium so that you can be seen. That is how visibility works. And it's up to you as an individual to do that for yourself. No one's always going to invite you to come to the front of the room. You have to be able to do that for yourself. So visibility and self-promotion, they go together, but it really, the basis of it starts with confidence, and confidence in yourself, confidence in your abilities, confidence in knowing who you are and what you bring to the table and your value, and how you are going to present that in a way that showcases the type of person that you want to be known for. So showcases how you show up. That's the self-promotion piece.
I think what you said is, so important to know, which is know your value, because nobody is going to give it to you unless you give it to your own self. That's number one. Second, have the courage to step up and step out of your comfort zone, which has to be an intentional stepping out of the comfort zone. And again, you need to take the lead.
Yes.
The third, practice piece. And I'll come down to a little bit. I would love to know what are the ways in which you build that muscle and practice. So anything that you do is a practice habit. So really be intentional about the practice. Be strategic. Think about it ahead of time. Take the first seat. Plan a question to ask in an all hands if that intimidates you. Practice that question. Maybe bounce that idea off of somebody you trust. and build that confidence. And the fourth you said was so powerful, to say, know your own value, because you are there because you are valuable. It's you need to reassure your own self. That's so powerful, Jacqueline. My mind is like, wow, so much wisdom right there. For somebody who's starting to, build this skill and confidence in themselves, what are some of the ways that they can start tomorrow morning?
Yes, yeah. Well, one, if whenever I walk into a space, I automatically take a landscape of the space that I'm walking in. If it's a conference room, for example, if I walk into a conference room, I take a look around and see who's in the conference room. Are there all men? Are there all women? Are there women of color? Are there no women of color? Are there, engineers, consultants, whatever the case may be. Take a landscape of the room. And then I figure out, where do I want to best position myself in that space? And sometimes it may not always be the front of the room. It may be in the middle of the table. It
And
may be
how do you
next.
come up with that decision of where do you position yourself?
Again, you have to take a really quick landscape of what's going to be there. And, some preparation goes into in advance. If you know what the meeting's about, if you know who's going to be there, sometimes you want to do that prep work so that you can know, who is it best that I sit next to? Maybe there's somebody you need to meet, or maybe there's someone that you admire how they present themselves and you want to sit next to them so that you can, rub elbows with them or something like that. So there's some prep that can go into it before you step into a room. If you don't have an opportunity to do that, then it's, where can I best position myself to get the information from whoever's going to be presenting it. So if you're in an auditorium, for example, and I've seen people do this, you walk into an auditorium and everybody's in the back.
Yes. So
why
many
is there
times.
no one in the front? Why is
So
there no
many
one in the
times.
front, right? So you just take the bold move and I'm going to sit in the front. Not necessarily, and sometimes, honestly, it's because I want to be able to see. Because I'm so short. If someone sits in front of me, I can't see over their head. So sometimes it's just because I want to be able to see. I go to the front of the room for that reason. So there's all kinds of things. But again, you take a landscape of the environment that you're walking into, and you find out how to best position yourself to be seen, or to be next to someone else who is probably going to be seen, someone who's either leading the meeting or has that they have some value for being there at the meeting, which, everybody does. But those are some of the things that I do. Here's another thing that I have done in terms of visibility: color.
I love that. Tell me more.
I like to have color. So I once had a friend, and she came into a room and she had on a tan dress, and then she had this beautiful lime green scarf draped around her shoulders. And she walked into the room and you immediately noticed her. Color will do that. Color can get you visibility. And so I love color. Blues, oranges, things like that. Whatever you're comfortable with. Put a pop of color on something that you're wearing. And not only would it help you with your confidence level, but it's going to get you seen, because somebody's going to say, wow, that's a beautiful scarf, or that's a really pretty color blue. That gets you visible. And it's not about getting compliments. It's about being seen, very subtly, to be seen. So sometimes I just use color.
That is, such pro tips right there, Jacqueline. Read the room, that's one. Do your homework whenever you're going. Every opportunity that you are stepping out is an opportunity to showcase yourself. So take that time to do the homework. Read the room. Read the landscape. If you can't know about it and reach out to someone who can help you prepare. I love that because so many times we walk into things and then think about, oh, I should have done that.
Uh-huh.
Right. So take that time, be proactive about building your brand in some
Yes.
ways.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
color. Sorry, go ahead. Were you saying
No, I was just
something?
going to say self-promotion is all about your brand. It's your brand. How do you want not only is it how do you want to show up, but what do you want people to see when you show up?
I love
How
that.
do you want them to see you when you show up? So self-promotion is very much tied to your brand. People know me because I like color, right? Um, and so they and oftentimes that's part of my brand. The self-promotion part is you don't always have to say anything to be seen. Sometimes it's how you show up to be seen. And so my husband says, never go out the door unprepared. Never go out the door unprepared because you never know who you're going to be seeing. My mom used to say that too. You never know who you're going to run into. And so your brand is something that is yours and you own it. How do you want that to show up? And that's where the self-promotion comes in. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's
No, I think that's fantastic, right? Which is you never know who you're going to meet, but it's also about you feeling your own brand. I think that's such a wonderfully, said thing. And all that I heard as a part of this, whether it's reading the room, knowing who is there, strategically thinking about who do you want to sit next to and wearing that pop of color that you own and you feel good with. None of that had anything to do with lack of humility
right.
or bragging, right? Which is where many times actually we think about, oh, self promotion is bragging or self promotion is lack of humility. And none of that I heard from what you shared had anything to do with that. It
No.
had everything to do with building your confidence. It's had everything to do with owning your own self. It had everything to do be proactive about who you want to be as you grow up. And it had everything to, build your confidence to say, hey, I'm good the way I am. Does that kind of summarize what you said?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Spot on. Spot on. Kamala Harris has a quote that I actually captured in my book. She says, I am not striving to be humble. And I love that. It's very simple. And I think we err so much on trying to be humble that we give in to, and we don't give into the beautiful people that we are, right? There's definitely time to be humble and to exercise humility, but not as a way of dousing your confidence, right? It's not supposed to replace the confidence in you, nor is it supposed to allow you to make yourself small so that someone else can look bigger.
Jacqueline,
So,
I really, yeah, this is like, giving me so much. Many years ago, this, I was a stay-at-home mom. And this is for all the stay-at-home moms who are looking to come back to work. I'm one of the fortunate ones who, came back to my career. And I've had the opportunity to speak to many, coach many through this process. But having that confidence of what's the value I bring, right? This is the value I bring because I really have not seen that value in my own self for many years. It's a struggle,
yeah.
coming back to something that you want to, you can. And if somebody is giving you the opportunity, that's because you're worth it. But to believe in that is really hard. What is your two, tips for people who are looking to build that value that you talked so beautifully about in themselves be? How should somebody start that journey and what can they do?
Yeah, it really starts with what are your strengths? What are your strengths? What are your superpowers? Know what they are and believe that whatever they are, they have value. It really starts with it again. There's so much of it is you, So much is starting with you. What am I really good at? And I think sometimes we go, oh, I'm a good mom, or I'm a good accountant. No, you're a good mom because of something. Why are you a good mom? There's something in what you do that allows you to showcase that you're a good mom, but there's something innate in you. I'm a good mom because I have an innate ability to understand someone's emotions and be able to help them understand their emotions. That's one thing that makes me a good mom, because when my child is having a rough day at school, I can help them understand why that rough day at school is impacting them and how they can actually channel that into understanding their emotions, so that the next time they have a rough day, they can actually be more aware of how that represents itself for them. So it's not necessarily the outer that you are, it's really the inner that you are. And so I think that it's really, really important to understand what those strengths are and understand what your superpowers are. One of my superpowers is connecting with people. I love to just have conversations like this. I believe that everybody has a story, and I love hearing people's stories, because inevitably, not only do you learn something for them, but I think when people tell their stories, they learn something about themselves. So that's one of my superpowers, is connecting with someone, and there's something in their story that is going to connect. It's going to be interesting, and those kind of things. So understand what your strengths and your superpowers are. I think that those are the most important things. How do you do that? It comes back to self-awareness. It comes back to self-awareness. It comes back to going inside and really, really digging deep and understanding the things that you're good at. And it's more than just the technical things that you're able to do, be an accountant or be an engineer. It's more than those. It's actually those soft skill type of things that really allows you to be able to understand what makes you the valuable person that you are. Are you good at communicating? Are you good at listening? Are you good at helping people channel their emotions in a positive way, right? Are you good at being kind to people? Are you compassionate about things? Those are the things that really, really help you bring value to other situations, but help you to understand the value that you have and that you bring to the table.
This is so important what you said. First, believe that you have built skills even while you are at home. And they are not possibly, or the skills, like the technical skills, and hopefully you do that too, but these are important skills that you have built. Empathy, emotional intelligence. As a PTA mom, bringing the community together was a big one.
Right.
Connecting with people, like you said, every story has the foundation of solid skills. So possibly take the time to write your own story on a paper and do that strength analysis and say, hey, here are 4 skills. And what I've found helpful is many times I am not that good at telling myself I'm good at this, because I'm really good at telling myself I'm okay, but I need to get better.
Yeah.
But where I have found it helpful to really do a self-analysis and increase my self-awareness is to ask people honestly and say, hey, do you believe I have a strength? And if that would be, what would that be? And often people would be willing to say, hey, here is one thing I see you do well. Here is one thing I think, you have opportunities to grow. So I hear all of that in you said, and I really hope to everybody, all the moms and dads and anybody who's looking to start their career, they take away this, that there is a ton and wealth of skills in them.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I'll share a quick story with you also. One of the ideas for a book that I have, and I'll get to it at some point.
I would already love to read it.
I think I may have mentioned this to you actually in one of our conversations, but the parallel between motherhood and executive leaders. And
Yes.
this came about for me during a time in my career where I was raising our three boys. And so being a mom, and I was also a leader over a very large team in finance. And what I found is some of the parallel skills that I used to lead my team were also skills that I was using to raise my children. Because if you think about it, they're all individuals, and how you lead the team to inspire them and motivate them, rally them around a goal to that the team needs to achieve, are some of the same things that you need to do at home with your children. We need to get ready to go to school. There is a rallying of right to get the kids ready to go to school. Okay. All right. So Kevin is slow for this reason. Nate is doing this, and Denzel is doing that. Those are names of my boys. They're all doing something different. And I have to be the leader that says, okay, well, I know how Kevin works. Okay, how do I inspire him to get going so that we can get him out the door? Nate needs something completely different. Denzel needs something completely different. That's not that different than when you have a team of team members who have different strengths and skills, and you are trying to rally them to not only be the best that they can be, but also to achieve the goal for the entire team. Right? As parents, we are trying to raise our children to be the best individuals that they can be. We're trying to do the same thing for our team members. So the skills, to some extent, that you are using to lead your family are the same skills that you would do when you're leading a team. And that's why I think that there's important to understand what the parallel skills are that you use when you are operating in both those personas.
You know, what you're saying is just so precious, because so many times we don't look at the parallelism. And you and I have had so many conversations that our kids, in many ways, are best coaches, right? The practice ground with them. And, you know, I recall very similar to your boys, my 3-year-old, when she went to school the first day of preschool, and she came home and I asked her to brush her teeth, and she said, "What are my choices?" And right, I was like, what choices are we talking about? That day it was like, oh wow, I do have to kind of switch gears and think about how do I empower her to make the right decision here, versus actually telling her what choices, just go and brush your teeth. Right. So totally, I think there is such amazing, power in what you shared with us. And I think the whole notion that there is one self that we all bring is so true, right? All the personas we all live, as a mom, as a daughter, as a leader, as a spouse, every one of these are, the same set of skills. In my technical brain, I would say they are the same skills applied in different use cases.
That's right. That's perfectly said.
And and I think a lot of times we don't look at that as the same thing. So thank you so much for sharing your story and being so vulnerable with us on the conversation. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I also want to, just kind of circling back on the self-promotion, and how be the CEO of You got started, after my career situation. And then I started thinking about writing again. And you and I had one of our most endearing conversations. And it was after a triumphant moment for you. And I remember us having a one-on-one, and I think we were supposed to be talking about how our teams are going to be working together, but I
think so too.
We got onto
it. It was a 15 minutes conversation we were supposed to have.
Yes, and I think we talked for an hour and a half.
I think so,
or something like that. But it was, after you had done the talk for our team at our team meeting about and you told your story. And I remember sitting in the conference room, and we're having a conversation about it, and me asking you how you felt about that, and you were like very humble, and you said, we don't brag about these kinds of things culturally, and so for all of you that are listening, I got Purnima to say, "I'm proud of me."
Yes, you
And
did.
for the first time, I said, you should be proud of yourself because she did an amazing job. By the way, she did a fantastic job.
Thank
Great
you.
storyteller.
Thank
And
you.
I said, you should be proud of you. And she said, yeah, I am. And I'm just like, no, you should be proud of you. You should say, I'm proud of me. And so through, a couple of iterations, I got her to say, yeah, I'm proud of me.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it was a great moment because her face just lit up and I could see that she actually really did feel proud of herself. But she, because of, so many other reasons that all of us face sometimes as women, we don't want to we don't want to say that because it feels uncomfortable, but that's part of self-promotion. It's okay to say I'm proud of me when you do something. It is okay to celebrate you even if it's a small win. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm just going to take a few minutes and bask in this glory because I deserve it, right? It's okay to do that. And so that article became the very first article that I wrote in my Be the CEO of You series, and it's called Say It Loud, I'm Proud of You. And I dedicate that to Purnima because she's the inspiration behind that article. It's also the last chapter in the book as well.
I am so honored, so honored. I was just reading this book and I did see that as the last chapter in your book. I'm so honored to be a small part of your incredibly beautiful long journey, inspiring journey. And I recall that conversation as one of the best coaching conversations I had. And I till date, I've shared that with so many. And till date, I will say, Jacqueline, every time I say I am so proud of myself, one, I think about that conversation and how meaningful it was for me. Two, I still pause before saying that. I still find it not a intuitive thing to say.
Right.
And a lot of that comes from, a cultural nuance we've had many conversations on. The word I am proud. The word proud in many contexts is associated with, oh, you'll get very complacent with your own self. If you're proud, that means you feel like you accomplished it all, right? I would love for you to share with our listeners, where have you seen that show up in the biggest shifts and the way you show up to the world once you start getting into that practice? I would love for you to coach our listeners on it.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's not something that's come easy for me as well. So,
Yep.
having a conversation with you, writing about it, and then sharing it with other people was revolutionary for me as well. For me, I had to, when I wrote this book, finished the book. I got the first copy of it, and my husband actually got the first copy of it, and he brings it to my office, and he says, I want you to sign the inside of my copy of the book, and I did, and he said, so how do you feel? And I said, yeah, it feels good, I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's done. He says, really? Is that all you have? That's all you got? He said, how do you feel? I mean, you just published a book. I just published a book. It's got your name on it. How do you feel about that? And I said, I'm proud of me. He said, yes, you should be proud of you. And I said, I'm proud of me. I am really, really proud of me. So sometimes when you're coaching other people, you got to remind yourself to do the things that you coach other people on.
Absolutely. Self-coaching is a big part of coaching,
Self-coaching
isn't it?
is a big part of coaching.
Yes.
And so now I take the opportunity to, and I look at this and I really am proud. I'm really proud of it. And you have to not get caught up in the, oh, did you see that little small thing? Or did you, the page didn't come out right. Oh, there's a typo in there or whatever. You can't get caught up in that. You have to just own what you do for that moment and just allow yourself to bask in the glory of celebrating that you've accomplished something that you said you wanted to do. End of story. End of story. And say it out loud. I am proud of me. And say it to anybody else that wants to listen. I am proud of me. And guess what? Those people that love you and care about you, they will say it with you.
I am so proud of you, first of all, on the incredible book, because it's one thing to say it, it's one more thing to actually do it. Right? How do you say I am proud of you? Is that like a manifestation you do in front of the mirror? Is that you write it down, or is that something you just say it spontaneously? Where have you seen you go and say I'm proud of you, Jacqueline?
That's a good question. I've done both. When I'm journaling and I see something, I write it down and said, I'm really proud of me. I'm really proud that I got this done. But I do look in the mirror, and I look at myself in the mirror and I go, I'm proud of you. Because you are all you have. Your reflection is all you have. And again, if you're going to be that person that has confidence in themselves, that is very self-aware, that is able to self-promote because you know your value and the strengths that you bring, you got to be able to look in the mirror and be okay with you. You got to be okay with you. And I remember when I was going through therapy, and my therapist said, so what do you want most out of life? And I said, I just want to be happy with me. Being happy with me is looking in the mirror and saying, I'm proud of you. You're okay. You're a great person. You bring a lot to the table. You're okay. So just simply looking in the mirror and saying, I'm proud of me is what I've been doing. And then as I'm journaling different types of events or things that are happening in my life, I will write it in my journal. I'm proud of you. You did that. You did something great today. I'm really proud of you. And doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be anything big. You can celebrate and be proud of anything that you do at any level, because if you don't, nobody else will.
I think that's, another book title right there. You can be proud of anything that you do, because that's so true. That's so true, which is we all actually do so many things, but celebrate so little.
Yes.
Because we're always looking for those big wins, and you really miss out on these small, small things that you do and incredibly build towards the big ones. I love that. So look into the mirror.
Look into the mirror.
Be okay with who you are. Celebrate the small things.
Yes.
Find things to celebrate every day, because there are things that you celebrate every day. And tell yourself you're incredible, because if you don't tell yourself, there's nobody else who's going to do that for you. Again, it's what you started with, right? The inner and outer. How do you bring those two together? And this is such a practical pro tip of how you can actually bring it together. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jacqueline, this has been such a fun conversation, but so much insights, so many pro tips, so much wealth of experience that you have shared.
Oh, Purnima, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all that you've been willing to share with me in our conversations. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know you and talk to you. And I'm so proud of you and you launching this podcast. We both are coming from similar career transitions that has prompted us to step into something different for ourselves. And I think we should be very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in less than 6 months after that career transition. So
it means the world. But we're not done yet. I have a segment which I call the rapid fire.
Okay.
So 5 questions, and 5 questions, about 1 minute each to answer.
Okay.
I'm not going to put you on a timer, but would love quick responses. They're meant for quick thinking. So I'll start with the first question. So for someone early in career who's aspiring to become an executive someday, as an executive coach, What are the skills you would advise them that they start building today to build towards the journey that they dream to build?
Ooh, good question. I would say to be open to raising your hands to opportunities that may not necessarily look appealing in the beginning, but could be very, very advantageous down the road. So one of the things I've done in my career is I've always been open to trying something new. So be open to trying different things, and be flexible and open. Yeah, I would say be flexible and open to trying new things that may not necessarily look inviting in the beginning.
So be flexible and open to trying new things. Be open to learning, even if it doesn't look like that's what you want to do. Question 2. If you could instantly master a new skill, Jacqueline, what would that be?
Oh, what would that be? Sales.
I like that. I love that. Tell me more. Why would that be sales? I love that.
Sales, because one of the things that I'm learning as you become an entrepreneur full time is that there's a big element of being able to sell not only your product offerings, but also be able to continue to sell yourself. So it's also in that self promotion realm. But the art of selling is a key dynamic or a key skill to have, particularly if you are in an entrepreneur if you are an entrepreneur. And so I would say my husband's a master salesperson, so he gives me all kinds of coaching on how to sell, and it's right, building the relationships that create a sales opportunity. So it's not just sales within itself, but it is a skill that I never really have mastered, that it would be good to, and I'm learning how to do it because I need to in order to grow my business. So yeah, sales would be my skill that I would continue to work on.
I see so much value in what you said, because now you are your own product. And I'm so delighted that you have a great coach right at home
Yes.
to help you get through that. Awesome. Jacqueline, what's your super skill? And what would be, 2 tips or a couple of tips you would give people who are aspiring to build that super skill that you have and be the next Jacqueline Brown?
Okay. I'll tell you too, this, it was interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend, and we were talking about this. Active listening, the ability to be able to just listen to someone. And through listening, I'm able to make a connection with someone's, either their emotions, their state of being, how they're feeling, what it is that they're looking to do. And it's listening to them talk about their stories and the things that have happened to them. And so being able to actively listen to that, and then getting people to understand where it is that they are in relationship to where they want to go. And trying to making the connection for them about, this is where you are and this is where you want to go. Now let's connect the two and see how we get you there. But it comes from active listening.
I absolutely would say that is a superpower of yours, because I have seen that in action, a super skill of yours in action so many times. What would be 2 ways people who are aspiring to build active listening, and connecting that dot? What would be 2 things they can do?
Well, first of all, when you're having a conversation with someone, go into it thinking, I'm not going to talk.
That's
I'm
hard.
not going to talk.
Yeah.
I'm just going to listen. And then be present in the listening. Because sometimes you can be there and you can think that you're listening to someone, and then you're not actually engaged. So, one, I'm going to go into this conversation listening, and then take a break and say, can I run that back to you? Let me this is what I heard. This is what I heard you say, and run it back to them. Not only does that let them know, not only does that show that you're listening, it basically tells you you've been listening, but it also lets the other person know, I hear you. I hear you. Because people
Yeah.
want to be heard. They just want to be heard. And so I'm not going to talk. But then there are going to be times throughout the conversation, let me run that back to you again so that you promote the art of listening, and then the other person hears that you're listening. And then at the end of it, you just do a recap. Is there anything else that you'd like for me to know that you didn't share? And then you do a recap.
That's such a great framework right there you put out. Listen, go with the mindset of listening versus telling. Be present, be curious, be engaged, validate what is being shared, and then recap to make sure everybody's on the same page. I love the framework that you gave. Thank you so much. That's such a pro tip. Jacqueline, I know you're a person of daily habits. You have a very strong routine that you follow, and that's really enabled you to become who you are. What is that one habit you believe was a game changer for you?
Oh, so walking has been a game changer for me. I get up in the morning, I put on my workout clothes, and I go for a walk, anywhere from 3 miles to 5 miles, depending on how much time I have. But it allows me to do multiple things. One, get exercise. I live in the Livermore Valley, so it's beautiful out here. So I get to be among nature and get fresh air. And it allows me time to think. There's some days when I walk and I don't want any sound at all. And so I may not have anything going except for the outdoor noises. There are days when I use my walking time for edification. And so I might be listening to an audiobook and I'll use it that way. And then sometimes it's sort of like meditation. I have meditation music that I put on and I walk. And again, it gives me time to just be able to think. It's my me time, and I enjoy it. And when I really get into it, that's when I'll go the 5 miles. But yeah, walking has just been an amazing cleansing type time for me, and something that I really, really enjoy.
I love that. Small habits that make big difference. Walking, that is for you. I know you are a huge fan of holiday movies. And so I have to ask you this. What's your all-time favorite?
Ooh, holiday movie.
I know there's a lot to choose from. That's
There
a tough
is a
one.
lot to choose from. Oh, wow. So interestingly enough, there's an old movie, White Christmas.
Yeah?
That is one of my favorites. I love to watch that one. And Home Alone.
Oh, I love that too.
Home Alone is a favorite movie for me, and it's because my son's name is Kevin. And when the boys were young, we watched Home Alone every year. And I watched it just a couple of years ago, and it just brought back such memories of when they were boys. But it's the very first one is my favorite one.
White Christmas and Home Alone Part 1.
In part one, yes.
Part 1. I love those recommendations. Jacqueline, I said 5 questions, but something that you shared in the beginning has stayed on my mind. So I will ask one bonus question.
Okay.
You talked about a song playing in your mind when you wake up in the morning, right? So if you had a theme song that played every time, which one would that be?
Oh, I can take One Wish. One Wish. There's a song.
Yeah.
It's called One Wish. It's by the band Hiroshima. It's a Japanese band. They were famous in the late 80s and 90s, and it's an instrumental song. And I have it on my phone. And I was listening to it when I was walking one day because I was feeling some kind of way, feeling like I needed a little lift in my spirit. And I put on that song, and it's instrumental, but I actually started putting words to the song. And I said, one wish, if I had one wish, I would wish, what would I do with that wish? One wish, I'd like to have just one wish. And I started putting words to the song. And so now when I hear it, I say, one wish, if I had just one wish, I wish this every day.
I love that. The way you brought you into that song, and wow, I love that. Jacqueline, thank you so much for the fun, insightful, practical conversations filled with so many things that I have taken away, and I'm sure everybody listening is taking away as well. This was so beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to joining me today.
It's been my pleasure, my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Continued success on the podcast, and hopefully we can do this again.
I absolutely believe we should do this again because there is so much more we can, talk about. And this was so fun. I wish your book the most success. Again, the links to buying that book would be in the description. Every listener, please go and get your own copy of this incredible book. Jacqueline, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And I really look forward to many more career in progress conversations with you.
Thank you, Purnima. Good luck to you.